I went down a rabbit hole with Apex and DataWeave, and I wanted to muck around a little bit more with this the CSV process. So in doing so, I came up with a couple of toys and knickknacks that we can take a look at, and also found a decent generator of Salesforce data called uh, what was it called? Macaru. I thought this was pretty sweet. It's not on screen. Let me bring this over. So if you don't know about Macaru, it's just a mock data service, and you can create whatever fake data that you want. And it's nice because it's like super fake, right? Like it's not pretending to be anything that you don't want it to be. So you don't have to worry about inappropriate names or things like that. It's just I thought it was super useful for what did I do? I created so when you create a Makaru account, this is not an ad for Makaru. I'm like not sponsored or anything like that. I just thought it was cool. I want to share. When you sign up, you can create your own schemas. So basically your own columns of data. So I created one for Salesforce account, and I was just mucking around here, right? But I was testing like, hey, if I want to have an external ID field on my account, it'll give me a GUID. If I pick a name, if I want a name, it can give me a company name. And that's pretty specific. Like when you go in and choose some of these types, like you can get pretty deep here, right? So it's not just me saying, give me a string of weird characters. It's like, no, give me company names and, or give me URLs that are legit. So they have this whole library of different types of data types that you can pick from to fill your schema with. Airport names, I guess, if I wanted that, you can. There's tons in here. You can go crazy. Probably car VINs, interesting. Random VIN, not real. Credit card numbers, I'm sure those are bogus as well. But lots of pretty cool stuff in here. I think like I'm looking at this. So I came in and said, all right, I need some fake data. I'm taking a long way to the story here, but bear with me. I need some fake data. I want 10,000 accounts to insert into Salesforce, and I want to do it with, I want to try it with DataWeave, see how that performs. And then I want to try it with just Apex, old school Apex, write some code that parses some CSV data. Now, I'm not actually doing the push, right? So performance wise, we're not even testing the insert. What I really wanted to test was the performance of creating an instance of the DataWeave objects, telling it to process and get the results into a list of accounts, which is ultimately like walking up to the next step of actually submitting the data. So rewind back to Makaru, I built a schema, picked some fields that seemed useful. I didn't want to have a giant, a wide data set. I just want to have a very tall data set, 10,000 records, 6 fields, nothing crazy. Makaru, very cool for being able to go in and pick, relevant data sets. And actually, if I preview this, the preview speaks 1,000 words. So here's the generated data set for accounts. This external ID is just a GUID. I haven't really done anything with it. I just want to see if it was going to work. The names, these are all company names. So yes, these are bona fide companies in the world. I don't know if they're publicly traded or what, but it felt safe enough to use as mock data. Like I'm not affiliated with any of these organizations. They exist in the world. It is what it is. I picked a website. Again, these are not correlated. So the sample data is, this Zuvio. Obviously, their website is not sfin.com. So it's just picking random sets from its known set of data to pass into these things. The country, I have no idea if they're in China. They probably aren't. But again, it has a two character country list. I pulled a state where I could. It does states, it does provinces, and then it does cities, right? So it's got a data, a database for all of these things. It was really easy to come in and create the data. A couple of limitations, right? You can only pull 1,000 records at a time. on a free account. So keep that in mind. But they also have an API. So that's neat because every time you create a schema, you get an API endpoint for that schema. And then if I go over to wherever my Salesforce is here, I think I wrote a dumb little script that would get my data for me. Let's see. Get sample account data. Yeah, here you go. So this is hitting that schema API endpoint to pull Salesforce accounts. And I'm getting around the 1,000 record limit by just calling it 10 times. Very, very fancy. I'm sure I probably could have used a loop or something, but I'm not that good at scripting. So there you have it. But I pulled these down, just wrote it to an account CSV. One thing that was interesting, there's a bunch of, the API is very well documented. Let me see if I can find that. Here, yes, API reference. So very, very, very complete. Lots of parameters you can pass. The only thing that was weird is I tried to pass this include header, and I wanted it set to false. So I tried to do that, but it still gave me the header data when it came out. So I had to just go through my file and clean that stuff out. But not a big deal. I might be doing something wrong. For all I know, I'm probably doing something wrong. But here's the data set as it came out, and I ran my script 10 times, and boop, got 10,001 rows because we got a header row in here. But there you go. There's 10,000 rows of bogus account data, and you might want to check out Macaru for your own purposes. And I don't know, maybe you can't do that on Salesforce. We'll do some stuff out here. Somebody's probably already done stuff. I didn't look see if anybody else had other stuff, Salesforce-y stuff out here. But there you go. Cool side effect of all this. So what now? All right. Well, we've got this record. I'm sorry. This data set. We got 10,000. We got ourselves 10,000 accounts. And what are we going to do with these 10,000 accounts? Well, let's try importing them into Salesforce. Not import to Salesforce. Let's parse this file and get ready to push it into Salesforce. So 2 ways of doing that. I will get this code up into GitHub eventually. Hey, I got a rando chat post from some robots that want to, I don't know, sell me something. So we're gonna ignore that. Okay, so here's some code. Right, we've got DataWeave sample. Done a couple of things in here. I'll explain what this ticker stuff is in here in a second. But I wanted to test 2 things. I wanted to first do some performance evaluation. This is not crazy scientific, right? Obviously, I'm writing Apex code to measure Apex code, which thereby means the Apex code is being influenced by the code. You get the idea. But I still wanted to have a way to just parse out without going through debug logs and all that craziness. Something that would more cleanly just kind of kick out some performance data, millisecond level kind of stuff. So I wrote this class called Ticker, which lets you create a new stopwatch, if you will, start it, add to it, attribute what's going on at any given moment, and it just stamps times into a collection, and then you can spit it all out at the end. So we'll see how that works. But we're doing 2 things. We have two commands here. We've got CSV DataWeave, so we're going to use that CSV file that we just created, which I have uploaded into Salesforce as a file. So that was the other thing that I wanted to do here, was have it pull the file from Salesforce, just because why not, self-contained. Pull the file from Salesforce, and then use the DataWeave functions first to see how this would perform and upload. Not upload, parse, sorry. So what we're doing is we're in both cases. So let me back up. We've also got the manual approach to this, which is more kind of old school comma delimit parsing stuff, which I ran into an interesting problem that's probably not unique to me. I found some articles about it on online, and we can talk through that too. But there's some when the file gets when your CSV data set gets too big, Apex has a panic attack and doesn't know how to parse it, and you have to do some things that you wouldn't expect to do to get around that. Nothing catastrophic, but got to work within the bounds of the system. So anyway, we've got so that's our manual approach. We'll step through that. DataWeave's a little smaller because, well, everything's kind of done for us, and we can test out this performance. So we're gonna get the CSV data. Both methods are using that same call. Get CSV is just going and getting the record that I put in, the content version record that I insert. It's called accounts. It's the name of our file. There should only be one of them, and then it's bringing back the version data and just converting it to a string. So nothing crazy there. Once we have that, then in this case we're creating an instance of our specific DataWeave script, which we wrote we wrote a version of it last time we met, and this time we did the context version. I stole that and replicated it as an accounts version because that's our test. Map the relevant fields: name, website, country, city, state, and we're using that now. So that's going to get initialized and measure that, right? So you see in here I've got ticker. We'll open up ticker in a second. In fact, let's just open up ticker now so we can explain it. So this little class is just keeps track of time, right? And lets you align some string to that time. So we've got we have two methods exposed. We have one called tick, and tick takes a string so that you can explain or describe the time in question, and then it basically just tracks milliseconds from there. Does some math and gives us some output. We'll see what the output looks like. It sort of shows the output since the last command, or the output since the last time we tracked the tick, and then the total time, the total running time since you created an instance. The total time since you first ticked to the time that you last ticked. It will show that as in running order. So I'm no expert in metrology or any kind of performance stuff, but this felt easier than trying to look at debug logs and all that jazz. So, we'll check it out. We'll see it in action here in a second. So back over here, that's what all these, so ticker t.tick, we're just describing what we just did essentially in each of these steps. So we're instantiating our CSV to accounts class method DataWeave script here. And then we're executing that script with our CSV data. That's what it expects, and that comes in here. That's the records piece of the script, and we're telling it what it is. It's a CSV. And then when that comes back, we track that we received it, and then we track that we're converting that result into a list of accounts, and we can see the account list get created, and then we just log everything, kick it all out. Do all of that exactly the same, but now with manual mode. So create a new ticker so that we can keep track of our time, get our CSV data, and then I'll talk about CSV manual to rows because that's where the work happens. I actually pull off the first row of data because that represents our headers. For our experiment, we don't need the headers. We're just going to iterate through. So whereas CSV data returns us a list of accounts, down here in CSV manual, we've got to create that list of accounts ourselves. So you've got our account list. We're going to loop through our rows. And then here we're just doing a simple split on the rows. I know that CSV is way more complicated than that in reality, but we'll just keep it simple. Looping over our rows, we're adding to the list, mapping the fields, basically doing everything that the DataWeave script does, just manually, and then we get our results. Now, here's where things get fun. The CSV manual to rows, I popped this out as its own function because it just got a little bit more involved. Passing the CSV data, that's the string of CSV data with line breaks, new line characters in it. And I ran into this. I don't have the original error that I ran into, but this is not new. Let's see, this was what this was like 2010. So this is pretty vintage. But the regex's too complicated when CSV string data is too large. So, and I hit exactly what this was describing. I was just trying to do a simple split on new line characters. So my goal was pass in this giant string that represents the CSV data, split on the new line, end up with 10,000 item row or list of strings. Each one is its own row, and then do everything else that we're doing after that. Well, ran into this regex too complicated thing. There were a lot of approaches to how to handle this, and this was the one that I sort of derived off of. I didn't quite follow this approach, but what I ended up doing was really just looking for the so loop, in a loop, find the first index of a new line character. So row 1, new line at the end, and then do my own split on that, but only returning that row's data, everything before the new line character. So then I would take that data and add it to a list of rows, and then substring from where that was, and essentially shrink the string each time. So this code would, if it was working on our accounts data, it would say, find me the new line. Okay, it's here. It's hidden, but you get the idea. Find me the new line. Okay, found it. Return everything before that. Okay, did that. Now substring this whole string, basically. Substring this whole string after the new line. And then boom, repeat. Salesforce was cool with that. Apex was cool with that. I think because, there's, for whatever's happening with, if I was to just split on the new line, there's 10,000 new line characters in that file, and that was just wasn't having it. So we were running into the regex too complicated issue. So there you go. There were other approaches to this, probably smarter than what I did, but I kind of took the easy way out there and got our data the way we needed. So and then this just sort of burns out until I've actually just have this kind of running infinitely, but there's a break in here that if there is no new line character, essentially that means you've gotten to the end of the file and there's nothing else to parse. So break, escape, boom, done, and then we've got our rows. So we've got, and then that gets called up above, and then we step through the rows and do the whole thing. So, all right, enough talk. You guys probably get the idea what we're up to here. So let's see what happens. I've got two commands down here. This is the DataWeave sample and the DataWeave manual. This is with ticker, so ticker is going to kick out some results for us, and we'll see what that looks like. And I have a file over here that I don't really care about anymore. Let's create a new file, and and we'll store all of our results here and see how we perform. I feel like I'm building all this up, and something's bound to go wrong here in live television. Let's do manual first, I guess. So I'm going to make a note here. Manual. Round 1. We'll put some stuff around this. Oops. Probably could even have ticker do some of this for us. But all right, let's. Here's a round of manual generation of from CSV from CSV file to account list in Salesforce. Take one. Let's see. Okay. Here's our output. It's from our first round. So we can, if we walk through this, we can see what happened. So ticker did its thing. We initialized, or we stepped into this this method. So we initialized here, got our CSV data in 600 milliseconds, created our row, and you can so the first number in ticker is how long since the last report, and then the second value in ticker is how long in total. So 600 milliseconds to get our data from our CSV file. Took us 4,000 milliseconds to create the rows. 4 seconds. That's a lot. It's a lot of data. And then it only took another 600 milliseconds to generate the account list, which is that's pretty good for cranking through 10,000 records. So let's run this a few more times and just see if it gets weirder. Let's do 5. We'll run 5 times. Okay. Okay, take 2. So manual take 2. And here we go again. So data retrieved much faster that time. Rows created also faster. List created a little bit slower. I don't know enough about the voodoo sauce of the Salesforce platform to say what kind of caching happens, if that file, if the CSV file is now cached and therefore it's performing faster. That could definitely be. The variability in the rows being created, there's like a 1.5 second difference there. Resource availability, we're in a shared we're in a multi-tenant environment, so who knows what that is, but let's there's round 2. So let's do we'll do 3 more here real quick, just kind of crank through them. All right, here's round 3. Even faster still. Let's do round 4. Like it also, that's why I know this is not completely scientific, but useful to see and be able to fire off some tests quickly. Now here we're taking a hot second. Let's see what happened. Nope, it just took a second because it took a second to get back to me. So that was good. And round 5. No, I don't think I need a Python module. Okay, so there's 5 rounds of manual processing for data CSV file. And I think I'm going to sneeze. Might be sneezing. Excuse me. Okay. We could probably drop this into a spreadsheet and do a little bit of math on it. Maybe we will do that. But our numbers, where did we end up? 53, 57, 32. So maybe 4 seconds total on average, 4.5 seconds for the manual process. Now let's look at DataWeave. I'll make a new file just so we can sort of see them kind of side by side. All right, DataWeave coming up. Faster? Slower? What do you think? I don't know. We're going to find out. I know what the answer is, but I want to keep you surprised. DataWeave is running. So I think this is taking longer. Quite a bit longer. Uh-oh. So long we had a system error. This was working before the show, and maybe we'll have to come back to it to see what's going on. I'm gonna run it again. I hope we just had a glitch in the matrix there. This is beta too, so just to be fair, you know, maybe DataWeave is just having a hard time today. That could definitely be it. Yeah, we got errors when we're trying to. Let's see, where is it blowing up? It's blowing up on line 40, which is I think here. So I'm getting the result. So just for grins, let's comment this other stuff out for a second and make sure we can actually initialize our script and there's not something funky going on there. I don't think there is, but just to be sure. This was working, so maybe we don't have it working for us right now. Okay, so how did we do here? Well, we couldn't get all of it, but I think this is also kind of, maybe this in and of itself is kind of telling. Like we're just initializing the DataWeave script. It took almost 12 seconds, right? So that in and of itself might be kind of telling what's going on here. So let's run another round. We're not getting to the other, we're not even getting to the step of, we're getting this far. Oops. We're getting this far. So we're initializing the script. We're not actually executing the script yet. 12 seconds to initialize a DataWeave script is what it seemed, what that run looked like. So let's do it again. Let's see. We'll do it 3 times because I think we can kind of see what's going on here. Now again, maybe there's some issues happening, but this is running definitely slower. Definitely slower to get the DataWeave script started up. There's round 2, 15 seconds almost. So we're kind of going in the opposite direction here. Nothing different with collecting our CSV data. That has nothing to do with the DataWeave process. But let's run this one more time. A little faster that time, so maybe again there's some caching going on or something. But it's still 9 seconds to initialize. I'm gonna give this one more try. Bring our other steps back and see if we can get some data. And I'm just gonna check real quick, guys. I want to make sure the audio is working here. Let's see. Yep. Audio's good on the stream. All right, we saved that, and try one more time. So the question is are we getting an error because we're taking too long, or are we getting an error because we're just running too slow? Or I'm sorry, is it running too slow, or is there something inherently wrong on the platform with this? So what we could do is log in here, update our accounts file, and maybe just make it half the size. So maybe it just doesn't perform at 10,000 records, although it was working for me before. Let's try that. Let's reduce the size of the file. I'll take this. We'll call this accounts 2. Let's call it accounts underscore 5,000 so we know what it actually is meant for. And we'll go up to, we'll go up to 5,001. Go to here. Okay. And over here in our org, I'm not doing anything fancy with the files at all. I'm just literally plopping them into files. So let's find one to upload here. There's accounts 5,000. So this should be half the size. And we'll try with that. Okay, got that. So we'll update our script to look for accounts underscore 5,000. That's our file name. Okay, and let's see if that works, if a 5,000 record file works with DataWeave. And if not, I'm going to drop it down to like 10 and make sure it works at all, because this maybe something's going on here that I'm just not seeing. But we had this, I had this set up beforehand, and I think we were good. So let's try this now. Okay, so we might have a volume issue. Let's see what's going on here. This was with 5,000. So first of all, we may just have a problem and let's see, let's call this round 4 5,000. All right. So initialize, retrieve, those are fine. The script initializing, that definitely takes a while. The initializing actually takes longer than receiving the data. And can't say if this is a linear number, right? So we dropped this down to 5,000 records instead of 10,000. Was that part of the reason why we were able to make this work? I don't know. But here we are, and we're also getting some kicking and screaming from Salesforce that we're close to, in fact, over our CPU limit. And what's interesting, again, this is not scientific, but it's curious, and we'll run this a couple more times. It's curious that whatever numbers I'm checking from a milliseconds perspective, they don't all seem to apply to processing time on the platform, which I think is kind of interesting. So if there's it seems like if I measure a process that takes 14 seconds and the CPU time is 11.5 seconds, where'd the other 2.5 seconds go? Somewhere. Again, somewhere smarter than me, the platform is doing something with it. So there you go. But edging up on the CPU limit here, let's run it again. We'll run another one at 5,000. And then maybe we'll run a couple manual ones at 5,000 as well, just so we can see the difference there. Okay, how do we do this time? So about the same, 13.5 seconds. Let's see. Yep. Nominal changes in the data retrieval. That script just takes forever to initialize. 10 plus seconds is a safe bet, and it's not really clear how much of that, like, you take a hit against the CPU time. But I'm gonna guess it's probably pretty consistent, right? There's no there isn't a world where because we haven't done anything to like at this juncture in our steps, we're not processing data. We're just initializing the script. So that's it could be it may not matter what the size of the data is, because we haven't gotten there yet. So what is, so okay, so we ran a couple of those. Let's run, let's say this was round 5 with 5,000 records. I want to do a couple of these with the manual data, or the manual process, I should say. Let's just see how that changes when we half our data size. All right, let's test this out. Okay, well, that was quick. I'm not gonna even capture it. Let's just do it again. 1100 milliseconds. This, 5,000. It's what's interesting is the. I guess we're indirectly doing some other performance analysis here too. Like, it only takes a second for a 5,000 record file, but it goes up to, well, maybe it's not that tragic. I'm sorry, I thought it was more significant than that, but maybe it's not. If this is running at one point, this was 5,000 rows, 1.7 seconds, versus 10,000 rows, 5.3, 3.7, total time. So yeah, that seems a little bit more linear, but I mean, 5,000 records in 1 second versus almost having a heart attack with 5,000 records with the DW script. So what does this tell me? Like, does this mean that DataWeave is bad? No, it just means that it runs slower, right? It probably, the trade-offs that we're making there are, I don't have to do dumb stuff with DataWeaver like this, which is, backflips and workarounds for CSV parsing. It seems like I can just throw it a file and it will be happy with it. I haven't done much experimenting in that case with end lines and new lines and BOMs. I'll pretend like I know what that means. I really don't. I've seen it a couple times, but I know that CSV files can be complex. It would be interesting to see how, what can you throw at DataWeave, right? And have it generate and just not miss a beat. So this also tells me, like, this is not, DataWeave is not the player for synchronous work. This kind of thing needs to go to a batch job or go to a queuable or something like that has a little bit more processing time. We don't care how fast it runs as long as it runs eventually, those sorts of scenarios. That's still, again, I think a valid player. It's also in beta, right? So if it's in beta, who knows if it's underperforming right now because it's being tested. Maybe Salesforce is throttling its performance intentionally because it's in beta and they don't want it to be a resource hog relative to other things. They probably want all of us monkeying around with it for a little while to decide, oh, okay, this performs at a reasonable pace amongst all these other people, or all these other processes running on the platform. And maybe they'll come to determine that it can be turned up, and I know it makes it that simple, right? They just turn the knob and it makes everything go faster. But, that's my shorthand analysis of DataWeave. I wouldn't assume that my numbers are crazy scientifically accurate, but there's obviously a difference in comparing a manual job versus the DataWeave process.